Check one. Check two. Okay. Currently driving to go hang out with a friend. Um, so there was something I wanted to say before in a previous clip, and because we're kind of lackadaisical right now, there's not as much structure as there could be, but random note taking and trying to contain the thoughts that are coming up into a certain fragment that may all be relevant at the same time or pertinent would probably be good. But that being said, might be interesting just to stay focused and see if that might help better than making eye contact. The thing is that during reviewing the previous clip, which is about 35 to 40 minutes, there was a desire to make eye contact and to engage, but at the same time, it might be interesting to see how well things go when there isn't as much direct eye contact because that now fragments tension, which you're like, so you gotta kill himself? No, not intentionally, but with two cars going at the same time at like a reasonably slow speed, you know, every little fragmentation of RAM, I guess, well, computers, it's random access memory, like the ability to think of something on your feet, you know, when that starts being drawn away from, the you don't have enough information or thinking left to do other processes. There was also the note that I make use of filler words a little bit too much, specifically like and and probably so forth. So learning to pause and gradually engage, but not really focused on that so much as just, I guess we can see how we're going to do with just being present. So that being said, which could be taken as a filler word, but it also acts as a transition. There's that idea that no, okay, focus on doing the thing first as opposed to trying to explain something and then try to remember because, if I scribble down stuff, the thing is I forgot. And that may happen from time to time. Jack, that was like 2 minutes of my life. I'm sorry. But if you've been watching other clips, you know how this rolls. So, filler word. There's going to be times when we try to advance and we're not able to do much more than maybe it's simply turn on something. In my own case, there's doing biblical humor instead of doing the books that I meant to write or to spend the time in that area because of one thing or another. So in my case, I don't like talking in front of people. And so doing a full-fledged book is kind of nerve-wracking in a sense. But then it's realizing that no one really realizes or cares, unfortunately or fortunately. And realizing that that being said is another filler word or phrase, I'm needing to isolate those bits out. And so taking a pause and thinking. So let's try something a little bit different and you'll see me focus forward. I think the original thought that I was about to interject at the beginning was that sometimes you have other stuff come up. And as Steve Covey mentioned in a different book, there is I've forgotten the premise of I want to say the 7 principles of an effective leader or something. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of that book. Um, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And then he wrote a book on the idea of having the essence of who you want to become and making sure that your schedule fits to allow some freedom and wiggle room. So if something else comes up that is more in line with that principle of, say, being a family man or going on a spontaneous 3-day weekend trip to meet a growth pattern or some sort of growth requirement in a different area. It's like, hey, leave that open in your schedule, because there's going to be those activities and those opportunities that if your schedule is completely compacted, yes, you can do a lot based on that plan, but sometimes going with a plan is not as good as not necessarily going with what feels good so much as going with that thing that is more important and more likely to fulfill your own essential personal calling, I suppose, is the way that you could sum it up. I'm not remembering the book, but it seemed that he emphasized that he switched over from trying to focus on getting enough, all the activity in to achieve something, to becoming, which is a slightly different mindset and a really cool one. Like, who are we becoming? Instead of studying 17 different books, it's I'm trying to become a teacher of management and leadership, and perhaps it's that conference that comes up, or perhaps there's a YouTube clip that comes up that if I studied it now instead of like 3 months later, because I have a whole plan scheduled, which seems highly unlikely, but that would be an awesome aim point. But that taking in that information then may help crystallize everything else. And so having some willingness to be flexible and fluid in achieving things by making sure the schedule isn't completely compacted and shoved in with a bunch of stuff, although it may feel like it's less productive in one sense, it may give the flexibility to be who we are trying to become and to help us grow in that direction. So sometimes you're going to be going on errands that may be because you care about people and they need company and support. And it's okay. I was about to say you may be high in agreeableness and people's needs are more important than your own. It happens. Try and remember the whole OCEAN acronym, but it's not coming to me right now, and it might be fun to just look it over. But that willingness to sacrifice yourself for someone else, it's beautiful in a sense, but it also may stymie growth. So keeping in mind that there's going to be urgent and important stuff, maybe helping out that friend, maybe important and urgent to you. But then there's stuff that is important but not necessarily urgent. It's trying to get those things together and done so other things don't, even if you max out and you get rid of urgent and unimportant, or not important and not urgent, even if you get rid of those, you may be stuck with just being unable to do anything else. Or you might still be dealing with your emotions and still trying to get yourself together and being productive. And that's okay too. It's realizing that after processing it enough, can we make progress? And letting that progress encourage and inspire you, whether it's to pull you forward or to push you, the pleasure of going forward or the pain pushing you forward because you don't want to go back. I think Tony Robbins addressed that point, that when you have positive outcomes and negative consequences, that helps to move things along. But as my pastor, Pastor Marco, was mentioning from the Way World Outreach, the has a lot of good stuff. And so one of his segments that was only a minute long mentioned the idea, the power of consistency. And he's studied a lot of leadership development, sales, marketing. I can imagine that he studied a lot of different materials. I glanced at his library once and it's like, wow, there's a lot of books here. That's really cool. And I think that was at the wrong time when he was dealing with some personal stuff in his own life. So yeah, that was awkward. But yeah, it's just realizing that the more you study and grow, the more that goes in here. You don't know who or what someone is until they speak. And as Brian Tracy pointed out, you can go to a country with an idea for a multi-billion dollar business, and you can tell them nothing to declare because it's all up here. I'm sorry, we're part of the thought police. Do you have any illegal or interesting plans? No? It's okay, we can scan your brain. He's lying, people. He has also a Snickers bar in his backpack. Get him. Sorry, I like Family Guy at times. But, okay, so he mentions the idea of consistency. That when you have good habits and you're consistently applying those good habits, that's going to help you achieve your growth and your outcome. And it's a 1 minute clip. It shows you how quickly information can just be lost, even if it's a really good nugget. I think there's something to be said that unless you're teaching, acting it out, thinking it, and doing it, you're going to lose a lot of your information after like a few months. It'll just go from some high retention rate down to like almost nothing. Or as my dad said, studying a college course at the beginning, it's like you're filling up a bathtub and then at the end of it, you just pull the cork and it all drains out. So a friend of mine who was being asked if he has learning disabilities or, if he has intellectual disabilities, I looked at him. It's like, bro, you've referenced stuff from material that you most likely studied in seminary 30 years ago, and you basically know it verbatim. You don't have a intellectual disability. You may have some issues with learning, but you've learned enough and you know enough and you study hard that the material sticks with you. So he has some good habits. And that being said, he seems like he's being held back a lot because you can be the right person but in the wrong situations. And so it's like you have a bunch of weight and chains on you holding you back, whether it's physical chains or spiritual chains or mental chains. Stuff can hold you back if you're not careful. And so making sure I don't know how this changed around from discussing this from wanting to discuss biblical humor. Yeah, go figure. Um, be that as it may, we are here now, and realizing this, we must press forward, either by switching and discontinuing this task to focus on another task, or continuing this one, which may or may not have fruit to bear. But at the very least, I know that I've cut down on the filler words. We seem to be able to focus a little bit better by not having a look at the camera, but if it's right here, that may help out for both viewers and myself. But with everything being said, also making sure the coolant stays at a certain level. I would think I was about to say there's going to be times in our lives when we need to shift around our priorities because other things come up. Whether it's leaving opportunity open for growth because there's bigger things that can help us grow. If there's a lottery ticket for like $5 million and for some reason you're guaranteed to win, I would get the ticket I would change my schedule around. I'm supposed to get married. Well, honey, let's think about this. $5 million. dollars. Let's have some people ticked off at us. They'll understand. And we can pay for an awesome thing later. Yeah, your wedding budget can go from, I'm probably really cheap, so 50,000 or 5,000. 5,000 sounds excessive, but you can easily jump it up to 50,000 and still pay off your taxes. I think everyone's going to be okay. I'm just saying. It's a pittance compared to how much you're going to be paid in taxes, how much you'll be getting. But you know what? If they're the friends and family that you invited because you care about them and they're close to you and they care about you, they should be pretty understanding and go like, you know what? Go for it. It's gonna be my new thing. And okay, so let's go ahead and switch gears and do the biblical humor. Hi.